Hello, this is Jacob, aka Antandra, and today I'm going to go over Ableton Live 10. I'm stoked that I was able to get a beta version to start testing it out before the release, and so yeah, I'm going to share with you guys some of the stuff that I've been figuring out. So we're going to start with the drum bus. It's a new device for Ableton 10. So I'm going to pull in like a drum beat, and then we can put it on there and see how it affects the sound. So I'll just load this Core 808 kit. And I'll just double click and make a basic loop here. See what this sounds like on its own. Not bad. Let's go ahead and slow it down a little. I'm going to choose 128. Maybe even slower. I'll just go down to 88. Let's make it a little longer. Alright, that'll work for this example. So let's go ahead and throw the drum bus effect on there. So it's here under Audio Effects, Drum Bus. Just drag it on there. And by default it sounds like this. So not much of a change. But we can go ahead and start playing with these settings, and you'll hear right away it makes a pretty dramatic difference. You have this transient shaper. You can dampen the sound, add some crunch or some drive. Different types here. You got your trim and compressor. You can add boom. So boom's really cool. It's going to add almost like an 808 kick kind of feel, and you can use this frequency here to tune it. And if you look down here, you can see it showing you what note you're close to or on. Plus or minus, and then if you click on this, it'll actually tune it perfectly to the note for you. So let's see what that sounds like. So that's a D. If I raise it up a little bit, this should be a F now. Adjusting the boom kind of makes it louder and also adjusts the decay of the sound, it seems like. You also have this dry-wet mix down here, so you can kind of get some parallel stuff going on with the original. So drum bus is really powerful. I like it a lot. Next up, there's a new instrument called Wavetable, which is a wavetable synth, as the name suggests. I'm going to drop that on there, and if you open this up, you get the expanded view. Now it's a really cool synth. It's also very visual. You have all these different categories and different wavetables within the categories here. You have two oscillators and you have a sub. You can turn off and on and change the octave and tone, the gain amount. You can also transpose the entire synth right here. You have 3 envelopes. The first one's reserved for amp, but you can also assign it. And then you can assign these auxiliary envelopes to whatever you want. And then you have 2 LFOs as well. So you have a lot to play with. You get this matrix down here that helps you assign things. So let's try out, make a sound here, see what it sounds like. So I'm actually going to bring this down. I'm going to hit M to turn on the MIDI keyboard. You can actually toggle that with the M key now, which is new. And so let's just play along with the beat, see what happens. This slider on the right will scrub through the wavetable. So I didn't record that, but one of the new features is this capture record, so I could just hit that. Which is really handy if you're like me and always jamming along without pressing record and then struggle to replay what you did quite as well. So that's a cool feature. I'm going to go ahead and quantize that. It records pitch bends and aftertouch and that kind of thing as well, velocity, but it didn't record the scrubbing through. I have to add that myself. So yeah, but if I click on that and I switch over to the track here and I go into the editing, then it's selected same as always, and I could modulate it here. Alternatively, I could map it by clicking on it here, and you can see it actually selects whatever you click on. So there's these oscillator effects here. You have FM, classic, and modern. So if I were to choose FM and click on the amount here, you can see that amount gets selected down here. Then I could map that to one of these envelopes or an LFO or velocity, whatever you want really. I'm going to choose LFO 1. Now if I turn this up a bit, you can sync the LFO here as well. You have different shapes, so I could do a saw down. Now if I wanted to lower this an octave, all I have to do is go over here and transpose it down. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, you can really do a lot with this. There's also this parallel filtering right here. Well, you can run them in parallel or in serial. So I'll show you how that works. You can turn on the second filter here. And now you could choose serial, parallel, or split. And you have the different types of filters that were introduced in Live 9. play with these envelopes. You can see visually what all the automation's doing from these little lines underneath the names. So yeah, modern's also very cool sounding. Almost like the mirrored warp mode in Serum. You also have this classic mode. Yeah, classic pulse width modulation. Next up we have Echo, which is a really nice addition. It's another audio effect. So I could just throw that. Say I'll throw it over here. I'm going to delete this. And I'm going to add another wavetable to test it on. And this time I'm just going to use a preset. We'll do something melodic. See what this sounds like. So without echo, it just sounds like this. Let's try a different one. It's pretty cool. Alright, so we'll throw on echo. Now, the feedback's only at 50% here. It gets really intense really fast. It goes all the way up to 150. You can also unlink the left and right, so you can start getting some cool stereo effects. You can change the timing from dotted to triplet notes or 16th. I'm going to leave it on dotted for now. You also have this reverb over here. You can set it to pre, post, or feedback. So that's post, but you can do pre. Or feedback, which again, you got to be careful with. You have a ping pong mode or a mid-side mode as well, in addition to the stereo. You also have this modulation section. So say I want to modulate the filter, just turn this up. And you can sync it or not. There's also a phase adjustment, envelope. You can modulate the delay as well, so that sounds like kind of like a tape delay or something. You can turn on this 4x for even more. Then under character, we have this gate. So that'll just silence the echo when it passes the threshold. You have this release here too. And you have this ducking effect. You also have a threshold and release there. And what this does is every time you play, it'll actually duck the sound that's coming through, and then when you release, the sound will wash in. So that's very nice. You also have this noise. And you can modulate or morph that as well. And you have wobble. And you can also morph that. You also have this repitch option you can turn off. It's on by default. So it just, if you turn that off, then when you change the delay time, it's not going to change pitch. Or maybe it will, I don't know. I'm not really sure how that pitch button affects the sound. Anyway, it's a very cool device, I like it. So I'm going to record a little part with that. Or not record and just hit capture. You'll notice capture just loops the last part of what you did, but it actually got everything. You can just go in and select the entire bit. Now I'm going to quantize it. So that's cool. Next up we have Petal, so I could try throwing that on the bass to see what it does. It's another audio effect that's brand new. So I'm going to throw that on here and see what it sounds like. So right now it's not doing anything, but if I turn this up, so it's got a few different types of distortion. You also have the bass, mid, and high mix. See, that allowed me to just cut the bass so I could have more coming through on the drum bus and have it not conflict in the frequency range. Or Or I could do the opposite, turn up the bass here, cut the bass over here. You also have that sub button to fatten it up, and not really sure what this switch does. I guess it allows you to select the frequency range of the mid control according to the helper over here. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So yeah, that's Echo. Echo and Petal and Wavetable and Drum Bus. Those are the main new instruments. In addition, they've also made some adjustments to some of the older instruments, like the utility effect can now go down to -infinity. It used to drive me crazy when it only went to -32 or whatever, so I'd have to map the on-off in an effect rack, so when it hit 0 it would turn off, or I'd do the mute button. But now you don't have to, you can just turn it all the way down. And I like to use utilities on my tracks for mix or for any kind of volume automation, because then it frees up my sliders for the mixing stage. I can really get the levels right without screwing up my automation. Once you automate these, you're kind of stuck with that. I mean, you could select the whole thing and try and move it down, but it gets a lot more hairy. So yeah, that's a good little trick. Anyway, they've also added, when you invert the phase, it inverts the signal as it's coming in rather than going out. So that's cool. You also have the new mono button and the bass mono, and you can choose the frequency for the bass mono, and you can monitor just the bass. So yeah, that's the new utility stuff. You also have an EQ8. This is my default. Just ignore those nodes. You can actually sweep down to 10 Hertz, so you have more low frequency control. Subtle, but a nice change. You also have the new ability to edit multiple MIDI clips at once. So if I select all 3 of these, you can see all the notes. Now, the chords are highlighted, they're in front, but if I hovered over these, you can see they highlight, and if I click on them, it brings them to the front, and same with the other track. And you'll also notice that all the MIDI notes are now the same color as the track that they're on, or the clip that they're in, I guess. You can also right-click on a track and say, assign track color to clips, and it'll make all the clips on that track the same color as the track. And you can do the same thing in groups, actually. And you can make groups within groups in Ableton 10. And this goes quite deep. I haven't tested the limit, but you can put groups within groups within groups within groups. And you'll also see those groups in your file browser, which I'll get to a little later. But yeah, if you right-click on a group, you can say assign track color to grouped tracks and clips. So it'll assign the color of the group to all the tracks and all the clips in the group. So that's really handy for staying organized. I'm going to undo that though. So let's talk about the arrangement view. I'm going to drag all three of these clips. Got to put them there. Okay. Now we have all three. All right, so some new stuff. I'm going to press that to go into the arrangement view. So if I render this to audio, freeze, and flatten, I can actually go in here and select an individual hit. I don't even have to split it up. I can just hit R and it's going to reverse it automatically. So that's a nice feature. And you could also go in here and hit 0 and it's going to mute it. And then you'll also notice these new handles which you can drag to crossfade. And so the one at the bottom will move the opposite way as the one at the top. And so if you move it into another clip, it just crossfades it. And say I had it like that, and then I wanted to shorten this, it's going to keep the length of the envelope as I shorten it. You can also hold down Shift and Option on the Mac, and you get this new pointer, and you can click and drag right and left to shift the audio. So that's very cool. And then undo that. Some other cool stuff you can do is, say I wanted to, I'm going to split that by hitting Command E. I'm going to delete this one. And then say I wanted to stretch this out, I can just hold Shift and I get that other cursor with the forward facing arrow. You can just click and drag it out, and now it's halftime there. Or the other way, stretch it, compress it, whatever you want. I mean, that's not how I would use it in a song, but it's great for getting some ideas for fills or whatever. Edit to your heart's content. But it's very cool to just be able to stretch like that rather than having to go in, stretch it in here, or type in the right BPM, or use this double or, half. I mean, that stuff's still very useful, but it's great to have this more convenient way. We also have note chasing now, so say I go into a MIDI clip here. If I zoom in really far and hit play, you can see it was following. Now, that setting, there's this button up here that toggles it. So if I turn that off, it's not going to do it. If I press it again, it will. We also have these new zooming features, so I could select this note, hit Z. I got to turn off my MIDI QWERTY keyboard. Now if I hit Z, it zooms in on that, and if I hit Shift Z, it zooms back out. You can also hit S, and it will compress all the tracks to show you the maximum possible. Also, if I were to drag and drop a track down here, well, there's always an area to drag and drop for one, but if I were to drop a track there, not only does it copy or move the track, but it moves all the instruments and effects that were on the track. So I could just duplicate it if I hold Option, drag it down, and it's got everything. So that's great. And then if I look here in my automation, well, they've actually moved automation. So you can hit this this button here to go into automation mode, or you can press A on your keyboard to toggle it. So if I look at a track that has automation now, like Wavetable, you can see it there. And you'll notice that it didn't copy across. I can easily just highlight this, duplicate it across, or I can put it in a new lane and do that. It won't break up the track. You can also lock the automation, and this is now MIDI mappable. So then if I move the clip, it's not going to move the automation, whereas if I don't have it locked, it's all going to move along with it. Let me get this compressed down. There's some other new automation stuff, like as you're moving this around, it now snaps to the grid. And if you don't want it to, you can just hold Command. You also have this vertical indicator when you're dragging to show you exactly where it's lined up to. And whenever you want to hide the automation, you just hit A and everything goes back to normal, similarly to Logic. Now let's talk about the new browser. So this is one of my favorite new features. You have these color-coded collections here, and you can rename them to whatever you want. And you can also choose which colors you want to show. I just have them all, and I name these to the categories for how I like to color code my stuff. And you can put stuff into multiple of these collections. So you can see I have some of these synths in several of the categories. And you can put anything you want in there, whether it be an audio file, a MIDI clip, a plugin that you like, a template. So it's a really great way for creating a curated library and being able to organize your stuff. Another new feature is you can go down here, and if you rename one of these folders, renamed, and if I say show in Finder, it's still going to have the previous name. So that's really cool. If you want to be able to customize what you see in here without messing up the paths or locations on your hard drive. You can also download packs right from within the browser. So there's a ton of new samples with Ableton 10, and you can just hit this download button and it will sync it to your computer. And that'll keep running even if you shut down Ableton. It'll just keep downloading. I haven't explored all the packs yet, but I'm sure they're great. You can also rename your ins and outs. So if you go into Preferences and you go into your audio, you go into your input config, I could name this whatever I want, main input. You could also name your stereo. So if I hit OK, close out of here, you can see that it's changed the name here to main input. You also have a new split stereo feature. So let's say I want to play with the panning of this melodic part. If I right click here or control click, I can say select split stereo pan mode, and now you get these new slider adjustments where you can adjust the left and right for the left and right independently. So I could see that being a lot of fun to experiment with. There's also obviously a new look and feel. They've added a new sans font. It's like their custom Ableton font. And they've also made everything vector, so it looks great on big screens. You can also, when they've improved the frame rate of the animations and stuff, you can also go in here, and they took out all the old skins, but they gave you 4 new skins. So we have light, mid-light, mid-dark, and dark, and then the classic Ableton 9 look. I'm going to stick with dark. They've also added some new colors, so if I want to go in here, select a color, we have a few new options. A lot of the icons have been updated as well. It's just an overall cleaner look. When you go to export your track, you now have the option to choose AIF, FLAC, and you can also export an MP3. So yeah, a few more options there just for convenience. I mean, if I wanted to use an MP3 for a demo or something before, I would have had to export a wave and then convert it using like iTunes or something. So this is much faster. Ableton also saves backups. So whenever you save as, or save a copy, apparently it saves up to 10 backups of your previous edits. So you don't have to worry about that anymore. I'll go ahead and save this. Ableton 10 test. And now if I were to make an edit here, hit save. Let's go to Finder, find that project file. Wait, sketches, Ableton 10 test, backup. So you can see there's already one backup in there in addition to the main project file. Ableton also saves your undo history after you close and reopen a project. They've also improved audio naming. So you'll notice that they've added a timestamp. So this should help to prevent any name conflicts. You don't have a million audio ones floating around and you don't know which one's which, and you do a find and replace and it can't find the right sounds because they're all named the same. Well, this solves that. You can also shut down more complicated Ableton projects much faster. I haven't tested this yet, but I know somebody who has, and it definitely is way faster than it was in Live 9. Another new feature is more elaborate routing possibilities in the drum rack. So if I load up a drum rack and I load a few samples in here, let's go ahead and enable the sends and returns and the ins and outs. And as you can see, there's this audio 2, and I could just drag an audio effect on here, and now I can route the audio to a particular return with this audio 2 right here. So that's new. They've also added some different sounds to the metronome. So if I turn that on, you have your classic sound. Let me just go ahead and mute these for a minute so you can hear. And then you have click, which is great for a more subtle metronome that won't bleed as much when you're recording with the live mic. And then you have the wood block. You can also change the interval of the metronome so you can make it faster or slower. Say you're working in double time or half time, then you can adjust that here. and you can have it enable only while you're recording. There's also some new stuff for the push. I'm not going to go into that right now, but looks pretty cool. And they've also improved some of the devices in Max for Live, like the LFO. You can now map 8 different parameters to one LFO. There's some new devices and overall better integration. It's more stable. It loads up right when you launch Live, and we're not going to go into that all at the moment, but yeah, something to look forward to. And so yeah, that pretty much concludes what I was going to go into today. Feel free to post any questions or comments. Until next time, I'm Antandra.